Kwon.
돌아갑니다. 정동현입니다. 정동현이 역전을 만듭니다. 2점의 장면을.
Winners of the FC Champions League 2020, Ulsan Hyundai.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, 안녕하세요. Ryan Walters flying solo in the K-League United bunker this week, but that should not suggest in any way whatsoever that we do not have a jam-packed show with guests all around the country. I am here alone, so no Bants to open anything, no Matthew Binns crying about Jumbook's form or anything like that. Actually, no Matthew Binns at all this week, sadly, but I will be joined very shortly by Thai League Central's Ta Lau to talk about Sasalak Haiprakhon, the Thai left back who will be joining Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors for a 6-month loan this summer. The year of the Asean player quota continues. After that, you'll be hearing from Pete Hampshire and Steve Price, our Korean national team columnists, because we actually have full-on, meaningful national team games happening again. The World Cup qualifiers are kicking off this weekend for Korea here in Korea in Goyang. So those two will talk about Korea and their Group H opponents. And then after that, we have a far-reaching interview that Paul Neat did with FC Seoul's Osmar on his 200th appearance in K-League, all of which for FC Seoul, talking about the championship in 2016, the FA Cup, all sorts of other things there, so you do not want to miss that. But without any further ado, you know him from Thai League Central, where he is the host of the Thai League Central and the Ta Lau podcast, a couple of different podcasts going on there, and just basically all things Thai football in English. It's Ta Lau. Thanks so much for joining us.
Ryan, thanks for having me on. I've been watching, been reading, and been following your stuff for quite a while now, so I'm excited to be on the K-League United podcast.
Oh, well, thanks. I'm excited that we're not talking in theory about ASEAN players moving to K-League. We are talking about concrete moves. We're talking about players actually doing this. I feel like I think it was 2 years ago that Guion came on here for the first time, and we were talking, maybe some of the Thai players that are going over to Japan could come over, blah, 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 blah. It didn't happen, unfortunately, but now, here we are. We are talking about 25-year-old Sasalak Haiprakhon. I'm hoping that I got that somewhere near right.
Almost. Yeah,
Almost.
Sasalak Haiprakhon. Yeah.
Haiprakhon. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get it right moving forward. I mean, for the few that are watching the video version of this, I am wearing my Buriram kit during this because that's how happy I am that this is happening. And yeah, he is, like I said, he's a 25-year-old defender, 7-year veteran of the league. And there aren't a ton of K-League fans that know a lot about him. So just before getting into it, how was he viewed at Buriram league-wide within the national team? How's he viewed overall?
Yeah, well, with Saselok, whenever somebody mentions his name, the first thing that pops up into Buriram fans, Thai fans, or football fans who follow the Thai league, it's the hard work and it's the desire to go forward. You know, this kid, 25 years old, has pretty much bursted onto the scene in the past couple of years. He was actually at Bangkok United's academy before Buriram snatched him in 2017. So he's been at Buriram for 4 years now. But with Saselok, you're getting a high energy player on the left side. He can play both the left back and left wing back position. So somebody that the K-League fans should be excited about because he's got absolute energy. He's got just a presence to his game, and definitely Jumbook fans should be excited about him.
Yeah, I think it's that dynamic winger that has kind of been missing at times in K-League. You know, we saw Kim Moon-hwan, who's now with LAFC over in MLS. We've seen this kind of player here. But I think it's really interesting that after Asnawi Mankulam comes over and has a successful stint as a wingback or an out-and-out winger, now we're seeing a somewhat similar position being targeted here. But before we get into any of the actual full-on positional conversations, you've kind of gone over some of the strengths of where he plays. What are some of his weaknesses that folks might need to be aware of? Is he a wingback that doesn't really like to defend too much?
I think he's an all rounder. He goes up very good on the ball. He can beat players 1-on-1, all that good stuff. Crossing, defending as well, very strong. The weakness, though, I think might play a factor is his height. He's not the tallest guy.
Okay.
You know, he's around 170 centimeters. So ball over the top, cross field ball, all that kind of stuff that you see utilized a lot in Asian football. If one does go over his head, it's almost like, you know, that right winger or that right attacking player is gonna get an advantage almost. But other than that, I don't really see many weaknesses in him. Going forward, like I said, always an outlet on the left. And defensively, he stays with his man pretty well. We don't see a lot of teams attack on Sasalak's side because he's quite disciplined. So, yeah, a very talented upcoming player. And I think he's reaching his peak at the moment.
Yeah, he's right at about that age. And interestingly enough, he's somebody that Jumbook could be familiar with. They have faced off against each other in AFC Champions League. And that might be one of the things that had this move come about. And that does lead into one of the questions that we had on Twitter. This came in from RY9, keeping it anonymous, I guess. They said Jumbook's been chasing Saselok for a while now. So why just a 6-month loan? And that is, should have mentioned that at the top. This is just a 6-month loan spell. And on piggybacking on that, I'm also kind of curious, is this something similar to what we saw with the trio that I refer to as the Supas, Supachak, Supanat, and Supachai, who went to Leicester? So is this kind of like Buriram kind of getting their fingers out there into other leagues, or do you think that there's potential for this loan to become a permanent deal?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Rick, for the question. Actually, a fan in Singapore who I talked to a few times before, Muang Thong fan, just like me. So it hurts a bit seeing Buriram players go to the K-League, but let's stay professional here. Yeah, with Buriram, they've never actually let any Thai players go abroad before. This is almost like the first set. Like 2021 is that first year that 4 players, 3 to Leicester for trading, and now Saselok to Korea. It's almost like that new phase of Buriram United where, all right, it's time. We've dominated domestically. It's time now to sort of let these products of our club go and try and test the waters abroad. With Saselok, though, good question on this. I'm not a big fan of the 6-month loan deal. I think it's way too short. We've seen the likes of established players, Tirthon Bunmatan, arguably the best player in Thailand, Tirsin Dangda, one of the best strikers ever in Thailand, and Chanatip Songkrasin, who's our Messi. You know, he's a Thai Messi. All these 3 players took forever, not 3, 4, 5 years, but at least 1 year to adapt. It's not like you go and you bring them in 2-3 months and they become regular starter. All these guys took time. It takes at least a season. And I know it's not the Premier League. It's not, you know, other big leagues where you buy someone in December, by January, they have to be first in the team sheet. But with Saselok, this 6-month deal seems like a trial for me. And if he passes the trial well, then maybe that longer extended contract will be in his hands.
Yeah, and that also touches on something that somebody else said on Twitter here, that E Young is currently in that position for Jumbook, and I think it'll be hard to unseat him. But E Young, I mean, he's looking slow, to just call it what it is. And I think that speed is something that Jumbook do need. This also, look, as we're talking about this right now, this isn't the Jumbook that we're used to talking about. This is a Jumbook that needs some speed on the wings. They need some dynamic players. But like you say, I don't love the fact that this is a 6-month loan either, because it just rings of something that's temporary, right? So the guys that you brought up before that went to J League, when there was at least even a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal, then there's an investment. There's a desire to have them integrate into the team. Whereas now with a 6-month loan, my concern is kind of, especially with the team struggling, that they're going to just kind of keep going with what they know. But hopefully I'm wrong there. And again, they definitely need some help on the wings. So hopefully that's what they'll get here. And is that where you think he'll be best utilized? And I think the comparisons are going to continue with Asnawi just because we're finally getting some ASEAN players in, and they do play a somewhat similar position. And we've seen Asnawi come in as a defender, and then he was bumped up onto the wing. So do you think that Jumbook could utilize him a little further up the pitch, and maybe that's where he'll get some playing time? Or do you see him staying on the defensive side of things?
Yeah, so I'm going to be completely honest. I don't watch a whole lot of K-League, so I don't watch every single week.
Sure.
But
Rude.
I do from time to time. Yeah, I do from time to time watch some highlights, listen a bit of your podcast, things like that. So I've seen that Jeonbuk, they play a 4-2-3-1, correct?
Or a 4-1-4-1.
And some games they do, or a 4-1-4-1. And some games I've seen rarely they shift to a 3-4-2-1. I think Saselok's best position is actually a wing back, not a left back. If I have to pick one, because at Buriram they play a back three, so it's like a 3 and then a 5 sitting midfield and then 2 up top. So Saselok's on like the wing, like he's actually on as the wing back spot, not as the third guy on the left. So when it's a back 4, there's more defensive duties that he has to do. Now, like I said, ball over the top, things like that. We've not always seen him test it, and K-League is a big step, a big step up in terms of quality. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he adapts. But if I had to pick a strong position for him, it would be left wing back, not left back. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that fits with what a lot of teams are doing in K-League anyway. And maybe that's what Jumbook want to shift to. Just got a couple more for you here. And maybe this is one that we'll be able to get. We'll get a YouTube clip for it if we can. But what would you say has been his best moment in Thai League so far?
Saselok's best moment, it hurts me as a Muangthong fan because it was that 2019 goal that he scored against us. So again, Muangthong, Buriram, that derby, every single time it's waiting for somebody to be a hero. 0-0 late on in the game, Saselok gets the ball just outside the edge of the box, that left-hand area, cuts in with, to his weaker right foot and finishes off. Took a lucky deflection there. But I think ever since that moment, he became a solid left back for Buriram, or left wing back. And since then his career just took off. I think that there's been a lot of recognition among fans, other players as well in the league speak very highly of him. Determined, he comes from that not the richest of background, so he's an icon to many people in our country, and it just shows that hard work pays off at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned this already, but he was born in Buriram, so he's playing for his hometown club right now. So I think that adds a little bit to this move and how ambitious he is right now to even accept this move, and even in a short-term stint like this. Got a couple of questions that are very similar that we'll get you out of here with. And again, I'm just so happy that we get to talk about actual players making these moves now. We had J-League Now come in on Twitter and said it's hard to ignore the ASEAN market these days in terms of popularity and the viewership that it brings. So that's on the off-the-field side. So he's asking, do you think other K-League teams will follow Jumbook and sign more ASEAN players depending on the success that Saselok has? So does he have to be successful in your opinion, or this also ties into a similar question, which I'll just throw in now. Have you heard any other rumblings of players coming over here? So first, does Saselok have to be successful? And is there any potential for more Thai players potentially coming this summer?
Yeah, I've heard a few rumors, but to answer your first question, I think Saselok has a bit of pressure on him because he's going as Buriram's first foreign export, almost like first official export that the club has allowed a Thai player to go play abroad. So definitely, he's not just carrying his own name, his own reputation, but it's also Buriram. He's a Buriram United player going to play in the K League. So I think Saselok has to do well. There is some pressure on him. And for the other rumors, there's another one, which is Adisak Raison, a more experienced striker. I think he's 31 years old now. Played at Port last season on loan from Muangthong, and he's been linked to Suwon, I believe, Samsung Blue Wings. Okay. So we'll see what happens with that one. I've heard other rumors of some players.
Keep them going. Keep going.
But there's not been any specific name that I've can say publicly. So that's all I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Suwon could definitely use the help up top. They're having a tremendous season right now. And I would love to see them bring in a veteran striker, again, somebody that we would assume that would be playing right away. And that does kind of answer the other question that we had on Twitter from Diliamin asking if other players are on the way. So hopefully we do see some more players moving over, and hopefully we can see Saselok get some time for Jumbook. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But again, at least we're talking about players actually making these moves. And if folks want to follow Thai League a little bit more closely and maybe preempt some of these moves with their own homework and research, where can they find you guys online?
Well, please check us out, thaileaguecentral.com. We have a website there. Also follow us on Twitter at TL in capital letters and then Central. So Thai League Central. And then we have our Instagram at Thai League Central. Same for Facebook. Just look up Thai League Central. So 4 different platforms that you can check us out at. And please, I'm very excited that a Thai player is playing in the K-League and looking forward to coming on the podcast more.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have a lot to talk about with ACL as well. So I'm sure we'll have you or another one of the Thai League Central crew on soon to talk about hopefully the K-League teams making their way through all of these groups and the opposition that they'll face along the way. But I think we're in for some upsets in ACL, so it'll be fun. But for now, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm Peter Hampshire and I'm joined by Steve Price to take a look at the Korean national team, Paulo Bento's latest squad announcement and their prospects in the upcoming 3 World Cup qualifications. Hi Steve, how are you?
Hi, I'm not too bad. Yeah, how are you doing?
Oh mate, it's warm down in Gimje.
Yeah.
It's sweltering. And I was picking berries out of a bush yesterday at work and it got me doing all sorts.
Right. That sounds pretty tough. Yeah, getting bitten by mosquitoes and midges and that kind of thing. Almost as tough as watching Seoul Land, which is what I was doing at the weekends.
So as it stands, North Korea have dropped out of World Cup qualifying, and that's had a big effect on Korea's group, which is Group H. At the minute, Korea have 7 points from 3 games, an 8-0 thrashing of Sri Lanka, a 2-0 win away at Turkmenistan, and a goalless draw against Lebanon. What are your expectations for how the rest of this Group H will pan out, Steve?
Yeah, I think North Korea dropping out's really flipped everything upside down, hasn't it? We're trying to work out beforehand how FIFA are going to decide about these, what to do. So it turns out FIFA don't actually have a rule. They make it up as they go along on this sort of thing. I read through the FIFA rule book and there's actually no rule at all. So it turns out I've got to feel a bit sorry for Turkmenistan because they got a great result against North Korea and that now doesn't exist. So they're in a bit of trouble. For Korea though, for South Korea, it's looking a little bit better because it means they can probably get away with just 7 points and that should be enough. Perhaps with their goal difference, even 6 points might be enough, depending on the other results of other groups, because when it comes to that second place spot, which is very important, the top 5 teams out of the 8 go through, right? And results against North Korea, they don't count. So Korea's poor result in Pyongyang, that 0-0 draw, doesn't exist anymore. And all of the other teams lose 6 points, which they get from like beating the worst team in their group who everybody beats all the time. In the end, it works out quite well for South Korea. Which is good because my expectations are, I expect them to win the games, but I don't think it's going to be quite as easy as everybody says. I read an interesting statistic today. According to Yonhap News, Paulo Bento is actually now the longest serving manager in South Korean football history, which seems a bit strange considering he's played far fewer games than a lot of the other managers. But in terms of the number of days, apparently he's the longest serving. I think it goes to show because he's only played, 3 real games in the last 18 months.
It's the first qualifying game, isn't it, since November 2019? So that is an interesting statistic. And out of those 3 teams, Turkmenistan, Sri Lanka and Lebanon, who do you think poses the biggest threat to Korea's prospects of advancing?
Lebanon absolutely are the best of those three teams. I think they're the team most likely to get a result against Korea. In terms of your question, I mean, probably Turkmenistan would be the team which would have the most impact. If Turkmenistan got a result against Korea, then it would make advancing very difficult. Whereas by the time it gets to the Lebanon game, maybe that result doesn't matter too much. Yeah, I think Lebanon are the most difficult team in that group. They always seem to do well against Korea, even though, interestingly, statistically, their worst ever defeat, or at least their joint worst ever defeat, was against South Korea, where they beat them 6-0, like quite a long time ago, about a decade ago. Recently, I saw, we also got a 0-0 result back in Lebanon. Last time I saw them play in South Korea won 1-0 with a last-minute goal against Lebanon. So it's not going to be easy.
That could be a good omen then. For those not aware, these games are all being played in South Korea, in Goyang. Group H will be in a hub because of COVID restrictions. Then looking at the squad that Paulo Bento has put together, who do you think could be pushing their way into recognition to making the full World Cup squad later on? And who could cement their place with a good showing in these three games?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, as we said, they've only played 3 games in the last 18 months. All of those games, they weren't like the perfect games. There's stuff going on. There's a massive COVID outbreak when they played Mexico. They lost that game. When they played Japan a few months ago, they could hardly pick their best squad. And if you look at the starting 11 in that game, definitely the front four are all going to be completely different in terms of either their position or they're not even in the team. And so I think it's going to start off looking at these games and just thinking, and you can see a bit of the squad, but the squad that you know, and don't take any risks against Turkmenistan. So I think the team against Turkmenistan, I've got a probable lineup here. I reckon it's going to be across the back, Cho Yeonu in goal, Hong Chol, Kim Min-jae, Kim Yong-gwon, and Kim Tae-hwan as the back four, probably copying a similar lineup that they used, I think it was against Qatar, maybe. Then I think they'll play in midfield a triangle of 3 with Jong Eun-yong as like the holding midfielder, and then a bit more of an offensive situation of Nam Tae-hee and Lee Jae-sung kind of in front of him, and then with Hwang Hee-chan, Son Heung-min, and Hwang Hee-jae up front. Unless there's some injuries, I think he likes to, games where the other team are going to be more defensive, he likes to go for the one holding midfielder. And then against the teams that attack more, he normally goes with 2 kind of more holding midfielders. So that's my prediction for the starting 11.
A couple of positions I'd pick out from there would be at left back. You've got a battle between Hong Chol and Iki Jae. Has been in great form in the K-League recently for Suwon Samsung. I've seen him score as well against Gwangju and Jeonbuk. And obviously, Paulo Bento has got a dearth of attacking left backs to choose from. He's also got Kang Sang-woo in the squad, and Kim Jin-soo is not in it this time. But could you see Iki Jae pushing his way ahead of Hong Chol?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Kim Jin-soo, I think he's the first choice in that position. And now he's injured, of course. It's a real weak, I think almost a bit of a weak point for South Korea that he's not there. And Hong Chol didn't have a very good game against Japan. In all honesty, I don't think he played that well in that game. I'd say you definitely see some of Iki Jae. I'm just not sure if he'll put him in this first match or whether we'll see him a bit later on, maybe in some of the other games.
Yeah, the thing is, they've got that Sri Lanka game, haven't they? And obviously, they've already beaten them 8-0. And you're thinking, is it almost fair to give the players on the fringe, just play them against Sri Lanka where you'd expect another comfortable win? Because then they're not really getting a chance to really show themselves in a competitive match.
Yeah, perhaps. But I mean, Kwon Sang-hoon, he kind of broke onto the national scene against Laos when Korea beat them by, I think it was 8-0, 7 or 8-0. And he had a really good game. It kind of like cemented him as a national team player. So perhaps be the same for someone like Jong Sam-bin or Song Min-kyu to really announce themselves to the Korean public as large rather than just the people who watch the K-League.
Yeah, true. And lots of the players in Bento's squad have been on form in the K-League recently, especially some youngsters. Who is the one player for you that sticks out, who fans should be keeping an eye on in these 3 games, one to watch?
Well, I mean, in some of the games, I think it's going to be, as I said, a very standard lineup. The player I'm interested in seeing, though, is Chung Sam-bin, because he's going in that position as a striker is kind of always someone you want to keep your eye on, especially as a lot of the times Korea don't have that many out-and-out forwards, so it's interesting to see if he's played there. And I think the 2 forwards, Cho Young-uk and Lee Jong-hyuk, who were playing in that game against Japan, not in the squad at all. Maybe Bente is trying to think of his forward options and look for somebody who can kind of come in and cement a place in the team in that position. So he's one I'm definitely interested in.
He's certainly got a couple of different options with Kim Shin-wook and Jung Sang-bin. That's certainly two contrasting styles he's got up top.
Right.
Me,
I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a bit of Kim Shin-wook in action, especially if other teams are playing quite deep and you want to bring him on and give you a bit of aerial presence.
For me, I picked out EJ Sung, who obviously is just going out of contract at Holstein Kiel, who failed to get promoted. So he's almost showcasing himself in these games. I'm sure he won't be short of offers, but it'd be interesting to see how he plays when he's kind of without a club with his deal ending at Holstein Kiel.
Yeah, there's definitely he's apparently got a lot of clubs interested in him. He had a decent season himself, but of course his team they didn't quite get that promotion in the end. But they were nearly there, and he really showed himself well. He was also in front of the media as like the representative player, talking to the media. So it suggests that he's going to be in Bento's kind of plans in the starting 11, perhaps.
Yeah, and finally we'll go on to talk about the match, which is this Saturday at 8 p.m. Korean time in Goyang. It's Turkmenistan. They've already beaten Turkmenistan on the road and all these 3 games at home, as you remember. How do you see this game going? How do you think Bento will set up tactically? Is it just going to be all-out attack from the start, or will he be more cautious?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, Turkmenistan have actually changed their manager since they last played South Korea. They had Croatian Ante Miche in charge then. He's not there anymore now. They've got a local from Turkmenistan, Roshan Madurov, who's taken charge of the team in this game. And they're very secretive. I mean, we don't know much about what their lineup is. They haven't released their squad list. They played a friendly last week against Uzbekistan that they lost 2-1 in, but they kept that completely secret, so nobody knows their tactics. So it'll be quite interesting. I think they got that really great result against North Korea that now, sadly for them, no longer counts. But apart from that, they've had quite a few losses recently. In the last 8 games, they've had 5 losses. And they got 2 wins, but they were against Sri Lanka. And they were not by a huge scoreline. And a draw with Kuwait. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. I think they'll probably play for a draw and hopefully try and nick one on a counter-attack. That'll be their tactics. And a lot of their players all play together for the same team in Turkmenistan. So maybe they're going to be more of a rounded unit, perhaps.
Yeah, I was watching the highlights back from the first game this afternoon, and it was definitely hit them on the break with never got pronouncing some of these names. Amanov and Orashedov looked lively on the break, had a good couple of attempts. Finally, the squad got together training on Monday, so Bento, he finally gets to have a look at them when really he's just been traveling around seeing bits and bots of players. How do you think he can move on, because he's under some pressure from that defeat in Japan?
I mean, the pressure on him is a bit harsh because of that. I mean, because in this whole coronavirus situation, it's really difficult. I mean, there's been 2 defeats out of the last 3 games, but one of them, the whole squad had coronavirus basically. And the other one, they're missing like all their best attacking players, which I think he had a tactic in mind, a strategy in mind in that game, and couldn't do it because of that. And then a lot of the players then were not really match fit either, because it was kind of at the start of the K-League season and all the players were playing kind of weird schedules and still getting into their groove. I think because of that, that's why I feel like he's going to probably be a bit cautious and start with the players he knows, because he hasn't had a chance really over the last 18 months to analyse any new players and bring them in gradually. He normally brings in like 1 or 2 players each time. This time he's brought in, I think, 4 new players. But I think that's only because of the maybe the Olympic team, some of the players which might have been a player like Lee Gang-in playing for the Olympic team. So maybe that's the reason why there's so many. But yeah, I think it's going to be quite conservative, especially in that first game against Turkmenistan with his lineup.
Yeah, cheers, Steve. I'll just run through the fixtures. It's this Saturday, 8 p.m. Turkmenistan. And then next Wednesday, another 8 p.m. kickoff is Sri Lanka. And the final game of Group H is next Sunday at 3 p.m. all Korean times against Lebanon.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at @KLeagueUnited with any questions, comments or reactions. Or follow us on Facebook to ask directly during one of our live shows.
All right, Osmar, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm okay. I'm all right. Thinking about the team and the last results and everything. So, but I'm okay. Most of my ideas, I'm trying to get some ideas from what I see from friends, and I'm thinking how can I help the team you can overcome the situation.
For sure. Well, also you made your 200th appearance in the K-League, so congratulations on that. Did you know that this record was coming up soon?
I knew because people start talking on SNS, but I don't keep counting. I honestly I didn't know. But my wife told me something few months ago, or even before the season started. She told me that I was like 11 or 12 games away from the 200, and I didn't realize it was it happened so quick. And when I think back, like, wow, 200, and a season is only 38 games, and only once I played full time. The time just fly.
Yeah, it really does. When you came to K-League in 2014, did you think or did you see that you would stay here this long?
No, that's for sure. I didn't think I was going to stay this long. Even though I signed 3+1 year at first. When I first came, Seoul came from playing the Champions League final against Wonso, and Molina, Dejan, Scudero, or of course some Korean like Myeonjin, Chingyu, Chaduri, Hadesan. He left, so the team was great. And for me, I spent my first season thinking that I was not going to stay there because I couldn't reach the level that I needed. And well, when everything started to work out for me, then I was thinking that maybe I could leave for another team, because it was when all this China boom came. Yeah. Everybody went there, and and it happens. You wanna chase that opportunities. So I was thinking, I'm playing now well in FC Seoul, and maybe now I can get a good offer. Especially in 2016, I was the captain, and then we won the league. So I was thinking that maybe I could get a good offer, but then I gave up on this, and then start thinking again about staying here and coming back after Japan. And all I was thinking was stay here, finishing here my football. But once again, I finished my contract this year, and I don't know what will happen. Let's see. This is not only something that it's not just up to me. Many parties that we have to agree. Full of things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's just go back to end of 2013. Obviously, you moved from Thailand. You had a good spell in Thailand. You won league titles, won cups and stuff. It would have been very easy to stay there, but why did you move to the K-League?
Well, I have to go a little bit back because when I first came to Thailand, I didn't know anything about football in Asia and in Thailand either. I signed because my situation in Spain was not good. My club got relegated. My teammates were having salaries down and not finding another clubs. It was a mess, and I didn't play much in Spain. So when I moved to Thailand, I didn't know much. And once I was there, I was told that the Champions League, the Asian Champions League, was huge here. Like a big change, and can give you new contracts and everything, because everybody watch, especially foreign players in any team, everybody watches. So when I was in Thailand, I started following Asia football, and I noticed that the J League and K League were the best leagues. And then I faced FC Seoul in Champions League, and I just fell in love. You know, they were so good playing, and I imagine myself living in Seoul, in a huge city like this, and it was, you know, like a dream. And yeah, then I start thinking that Thailand would be a great opportunity to give me a chance to open it to Asia football, and trying to reach out the biggest clubs in Asia. Same thing when you are in Europe. You know, every young player wants to reach out, and Real Madrid, Manchester, and this. And back then, FC Seoul was one of the probably top 3, top 5 clubs there. So I wanted to come here.
So you only really had interest in FC Seoul. I mean, there must have been other teams that wanted you. As soon as FC Seoul perhaps got interested, there must have been other teams in the K-League that might have wanted to sign you back then.
Actually, there was a contact with every single team that I played against them in Champions League. When I played in Buriram in Thailand, there was maybe nothing official, you know, but contact and calls and messages with Begalta Sendai I played, with Jiangsu, then with Bunjotkor from Uzbekistan, with Estegral from Iran. Everybody asked, hey, like, who are you? You know, all of a sudden one foreign comes to Thailand, and you know, Thai team gets to the quarterfinal. It's like, whoa. But then Seoul didn't contact at first.
Interesting.
And I told my agent, I want to come here. I want to come to FC Seoul. And some people told me that it was too big, you know, too much. They don't sign people from Thailand, or they didn't sign anybody from Thailand back then. Nobody from Spain. You know, it was a market they don't know. They know much better at Serbia players or Brazilians, and they recommend me to come some other small team. I don't know, some maybe second division or something, and play good and try to sign for them. But then the former coach Cheon-soo wanted to make some changes, and then Adilson retired, so everything started to match.
Yeah.
And then I got a call from them, and it was like, ooh, now, yeah, okay, let's do it.
Nice. So obviously that would have been a great bit of news for you. What was your first impressions of the club in terms of the size? Like when you arrived and you went to the stadium and stuff like that. What were your first impressions of the club?
Well, for me, it was huge club. Again, once I followed some football here in Asia, I knew the 3 or 4 biggest teams in almost in every league. China League was still making up before Guangzhou and Shanghai became huge. But K-League was there. In K-League there was 3 or 4 teams, and Seoul for me was the best back then. Stadium, I still say that even today after 7 years, when I come into the stadium, I feel nervous. I feel like I'm playing for Real Madrid in Bernabeu. So even though it's my stadium, but I feel the goosebumps before coming in. So his feelings is unbelievable. And just imagine coming to the team who played final, the Champions League final last season, and then they sell players for 2, 3, 4 millions. That tells you everything. That tells you that this is huge. Not just the team, but also some opportunity. As I said before, I didn't imagine myself playing here for 7 years. Usually players come and go, especially foreigners in Asia. It's not easy to find a place to stay for a long time. So I was thinking that Seoul was probably one of the biggest place to come, biggest clubs. And if I could succeed here, whether to stay or whether to move again, it would be good anyways.
Yeah. Well, your debut came obviously in March 2014. Do you remember who it was against and what happened?
It was Central Coast. Sorry, Champions League first game of the group stage, and I scored a PK, hitting the post.
That must have been like a dream come true then on your debut to score.
Yeah, but not just because I scored, but because that year when I came, the coach started to make changes in the tactics. He changed from the 4-4-2, I think they played before, 4-2-3-1. He changed it to the 3-back, this new system that everybody uses now.
Yeah.
And I played on the left, and I think I kind of impressed him because I wasn't the normal centre back who just passes the ball and smashes the ball when it's under pressure. Yeah. I came up forward, I shoot a few times, I make crosses, even though I was a centre back. So I like to think he never told me, but I like to think that I impressed him that day, and that I show him like kind of a different idea of a centre back, of a three back line centre back. So I think it was a good start, of course.
Yeah. Going back to the K-League for a minute, obviously you made your K-League debut, I think it was against the Jeonnam Dragons. I think it was the first game of the 2014 season. But what were your first impressions of the K-League and the style of football? Obviously, you've been in Thailand for a while. What was the style? What was the differences that you noticed?
Well, I noticed after I understood it differently, but the intensity was much higher than Thailand. Even though there are spaces between the lines, in Thailand is bigger. The space between defense line, midfield line, striker lines is huge. And here is also big. I'm talking because I'm Spanish, and in Spain we like tight lines, space. I see there is a space here in Korea, but when I first came, it was like, wow, there's so much space, but the player approached so fast to you. It's not that there is a lot of space. You can play easy. It's okay, there is a lot of space, but within 2 seconds, the player comes to you. Sometimes I thought that there was no sense. So how some teams or how some player press, because they press left, right, center. But then you realize they are going to die after 60 minutes, but they don't. Keep going. And it makes you, if you don't adapt quick, if you don't speed up your tempo, they can run over you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I did well here. I tried to I catch the Korean idea quick. I adapt, but then using my way in order to balance, the Korean way. So
yeah,
I like to think that the mix of both of them went good for me.
Yeah, for sure.
I see that's a big point. That's I see probably even better players than me coming here, but somehow they don't last long, or I don't know what happens. But adaptation, I think, is everything, and then I think you don't have to give up your own style, but you have to adjust to the Korean style as well. So you have to balance a little bit that way.
You've scored quite a lot of goals for a defensive player. Are you happy with the amount of goals that you've scored? Would you like to have scored more?
I would like to score more in set pieces. Sometimes I'm told, by the coaches that they want me to score more in set pieces. I don't know. Maybe I don't know how. I don't know. Set pieces is something very precise. Cross, the timing, you have to be fighting with the opponent. This is something I would like to do more in order to help the team. But overall, I'm okay with the goals I scored. I know it's not my thing, score goals. Of course, if I can help, that's that's good, but it's not something that I'm thinking too much of. But truth is, in the last years, we didn't find a proper foreign who make big difference like Seoul used to have, like Dejan, Molina. And even though I'm defensive player style, I was kind of thinking about this, like, okay, I have to try more. I have to try to do something else, not just build up and defense. So I was, in the last few years, I was trying to do something else, like do some more assists and free kicks, and trying to do a bit more.
Yeah, I think you've scored 21 for Seoul. That might be overall. Do you have a favourite? Any particular goal that stands out as being the best one that you've scored?
The two that I scored against Suwon in the derby match.
Yeah,
they were two good goals, not just not two good ones. But I have to admit that I scored a few free kicks, all similar way.
Rockets.
The rockets.
Yeah.
And they are kind of similar, but I guess scoring against Suwon twice makes more special the goals.
Yeah, I did think you might have said the goals against Suwon. Indeed, yeah. Well, in your first season, you reached the FA Cup final, but obviously you were on the losing side that afternoon. But then 1 year later, you went one better. You won the FA Cup. That must have been a relief after the disappointment of the year before. You must have felt real relief that you won the trophy.
Yes, actually, I played three finals in a row. I lost.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Lost, I won, I lost.
Yeah.
But it was a relief because in 2014 we lost against really bad Songnam. I still remember that game that they put Jeprov as a center forward who has no speed, and he didn't cross the half line. So the Songnam's plan was stay back and defend. And somehow we couldn't score. We gave them the chance. I think that game we lost. I think Songnam didn't win, but we lost. And when you lost, it's more disappointing than when the other team wins. You know.
Yeah, I see.
And winning the next year was like, okay, now at least we have won.
Yeah, but that was it was quite a close game. I think Adriano scored very late, didn't he? It was a bit nervous towards the end. 1-1, and then Adriano scored in the 88th minute, and then you got one more later. But it was. I think it was still 1-1 until 88 minutes.
Maybe you don't believe me, but I remember more the one I told you, when I lost against Songnam, and the one I won.
Really, that's interesting.
I don't remember that one. I remember how we lost against Songnam.
Yeah. I see. Well, you obviously, and then 1 year later, you win the K-League title. Now, a lot of people will talk about how that Jumbook had their points taken away from them, but you still had to make up quite a big points gap to then catch them.
Yes, because I think the team was good, was incredible for until we changed the coach. Until Cheon-Soo left and Hwang came. I don't remember we lost many games. We really, really killed everyone. Champions League, K-League. And then we changed the coach, and of course, things change. The team was good, but the new coach comes with new ideas, and we couldn't keep up. I think we didn't win in 1 month. Then that's when we opened the gap, and we start again winning, but the gap was there already. Jumbo was super strong, and the new coach, he changed back a few things, and we could catch them, but at the end, that game I will remember as well. last game in Jeonju, winning the title there, Chuyon's goal. I think that game was more about the emotions and the character that we show. Playing against Jumbook away is always difficult. Actually, I don't know when was the last time we won there, but probably this was the game that I see my teammates and myself with more character. We were controlled by Jumbook for many times, many minutes. We were we defend. We had to defend a lot, but we were okay. We didn't panic much. We were strong. We were talking. We shout each other. We encourage each other, and we have faith that one chance would come, and then it came.
It did, yeah. That must have been like the cup final of all cup finals. It was almost like a one-off game, because everything came down to that game. You had to win. Jeonbuk just needed to get 1 point, and they were champions, and they very nearly equalized quite late on. I think you must have had such a huge celebration after that.
Yes, because again, the season was a little bit up and down. It looked like the team was super good. Then we dropped the level, and we thought, okay, that's it. Jumbook wins again.
Yeah.
Then we catch up, and we start believing again. We waited for the points for them to cut, and then they give us some faith, and we didn't give up. So when the whistle was blown, it was like, what? Really? And for me, more because I was the captain this year. I had to. I don't want to say it in a negative way, but I had to deal with two different coaches. The one who made me captain and the new one, and it was different. No, I'm not here 10 years player, so it was not easy for me because there were so many questions about communication and how I could communicate with the team, and everything turned out just well. We won the league. We reached the semi-final of Champions League. We played the FA Cup final. It was one of the best seasons of FC Seoul in the last years, with a foreigner as a captain, and people questioning about the communication. So for me, it was a big relief and big reward.
That must have been the happiest moment of your football career so far, surely.
Yes, probably.
Yeah. How do you think things have gone since you came back? Obviously, 2019 was a lot better. You finished third back in the Champions League. But since then, how do you think FC Seoul have been in the last sort of year and a half?
Not well either. No, something is not working well as it should, or as I would like. I can just point at what, again, is probably a chain of many things. But the thing is, every single game, before a game, I wake up in the hotel or at home with so much hope, that, okay, from today, things are going to change. And then it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then last year really was so tough. And somehow the players got some weakness inside of them. They are not confident on themselves, and I see some players struggling with their emotions. When you talk, when you want to be a football player comes with a pressure. That's it, and you feel so many things. You feel joy. You feel frustrated sometimes. You feel disappointed. You feel so many things, and many things are bad. Many things you lose more than win. Not just game, but also in trainings and somehow I see some players struggle with these emotions. So once the team is going not so good, I think they don't have the mechanism to stop this from their inside, and it's difficult for them to change that once they start playing bad or missing, they cannot just forget and keep going. And this is something that, I don't know, our team has now for me for too long. We shouldn't be affected this way when we lose a game, or when we miss few passes, or when one player play bad one game. There's no problem. Nothing happens. You are the same guy. You are the same good and bad player. It's same. You are the same than before.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know. Somehow, I think the emotions are not well controlled, and this affect our performances.
Yeah. Well, hopefully things do improve. There's still lots of time left. There's still a summer transfer window to come as well. But fingers crossed things do improve. Well, Osmar, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations again on 200 games. It's a great achievement. Hopefully there's many more to come as well.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I was told that I played 257 in total. Let's see if I can get 300 in total.
Yeah, let's hope so.
300 Kelly games will be a little bit hard, but maybe in total I can do it.
Let's hope so. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you soon.
All right. See you.
G. Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Old Giro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favorites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, Old G. Lewis is sure to become your favorite neighborhood pub. Be sure to mention K-League United at the bar during your visit, and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm host Ryan Walters, and that is about going to do it for us this week. As always, if you'd like to get more involved with the show, you can do so over on patreon.com/K-League United, where we have some so rare tiers. Although K-League 1 is on break for a good long while, we do also have some expertise about the teams that will be playing in AFC Champions League, which is on So Rare, which is super fun because it's a fantastic tournament that we'll be talking about in more detail as the month goes on. But the So Rare tiers are mainly at the $5 and $10 tiers. And if you would like to get involved with some of the other stuff like Saturdays, Koreans Overseas, pub quizzes, which is actually going to happen this summer. We keep talking about it, but it is actually going to happen this summer. You can get involved as low as $1, $3, or again, that $5 tier. And if you'd like to listen to us live, you can do so every Thursday on Football Nation Radio down in Australia. Plugging it again, always do. Actually wearing a Western City Wanderers kit while I record this. A-League Final Series is happening soon. It's all sorts of fun. If you've listened to the podcast before, you know my opinion and my thoughts on playoffs. So good time to tune into FNR and see what's going on down in Australia. Also very interesting because a lot of the Socceroos are not going to be there. So depth going to be tested down there. But anyway, that's for a different podcast, not this one. If you leave us a review, then you'll be entered into this month's, which is actually still a little bit of last month's, K-League kit contest. It is a 2017 Gangwon FC goalkeeper kit from the ski jump year. So if you leave us a review, 5 stars preferred, then we will go ahead and get you entered into that. But for now, another big thank you to our guests, Ta Lau from Thai League Central and Osmar Ibanez of FC Seoul. And thank you so much for listening.
공격 폭격기 김신우